Through the expansive wilds and lost horizons, separating the thriving centers of civilization, lie various overlooked waypoints etched with tales faded by time. As our quest persists in trailing the predestined northern bloodline from its forgotten origins, assorted site markers emerge meaningful before retreating once more. As the Allende Chronicles unfurls, we venture via Mexico's heart, retracing a family's lineage against an evolving backdrop of landscapes and eras. Chapter 4 sees our account heading northward, approaching Coahuila, our destination, and guides us through pivotal historical waypoints like Nuevo Leon, integral to the family's past before their settlement in Coahuila, Allende, and beyond. In colonial Mexico's core, exhausted by conflict, we recover our central mysteries threads in the post-classic boomtown spreading silver fever northward. Rich ore discoveries scattered across remote Sierra Madre outcrops enticed opportunist waves, even as native raids thwarted their ambitions. Down hazardous trails, prospectors and merchants fantasized over instant status bought by audacious ingenuity and fortune. Further along the Camino Real de Tierra Adentro, we catch hints of interwoven destiny in long bypass springs, where respite nourished resolve for sojourners bound toward fabled glittering cities beyond heat mirage on the horizon. Meanders and bends beyond crumbling missions and weathered petroglyphs conceal clues awaiting revelation, underneath apparent ruin. Under starlit skies, each night's passage filled the Odyssey with hope and sparks of mystery. Campfires lit up transient camps, casting fleeting faces in the firelight. But who can now discern the premonitions those faces held before they faded back into shadows? The trail leads onward through locales imprinting traces upon our chronicle before arrival, where closure and beginning was ordained. We decode suggestive tracks through eras and places where complete disclosure awaits unopened in posterity's gift. In the heartlands of colonial Mexico, aspirations of prosperity drove prospectors into the Sierras. This movement inaugurated a transformative period. This avidity for riches established the cornerstones for Coahuila's enduring cultural and societal mosaic. Their temporary mining settlements flourished into hubs where indigenous workers, managers, and investors uneasily coexisted under the vivid Sierra backdrop. Further along the Camino, marked by smallpox's scars, seclusion from Mexico's core magnified the settlers' frailty, underlining frontier life's harsh truths. Heavily laden mules carrying precious ores made enticing targets for brazen native raids, until garrison outposts and fortified waystations curbed the worst lawlessness. Still, unlikely hospitality took tender shoots within guarded enclaves, where diverse peoples broker provisional trust when survival was mutually contingent. On horseback and on foot, we decode the tales etched in scrolls and stone, piecing together the lineage interwoven with Coahuila's history, which hint conceals the keystone to our enigma still obscured. Royal forced resettlement of entire communities, clandestine spiritual rites eulogizing fallen capitals, recurring apparitions of the crying woman seen by ancestors. Cryptic context builds toward revelation if we grasp the overarching model. Through generations, oral stories have kept alive certain ancestral memories, even as physical evidence has disappeared. Around campfires and in barracks, myths wove together foreign and native tales. These shared experiences, born from battles fought side by side, formed stronger bonds than any sermon could. What drove our ancestors northward? Was it fiery impatience or a craving for renown? They chose challenging paths through crucibles, while less arduous roads led back to the embrace of order. Did grounded pragmatism counter zealous ideals in those now mostly unnamed who carried emergent syncretism in their bags? From what blend of excess and restraint was the future cast? Beyond the ringing of miners' pickaxes probing Sierra Madre veins, resounds our quest's clearer cues. In the establishment of frontier missions and presidios lie glimpses of hereditary legacy. In one burgeoning waypoint, we reveal special dispensation by royal authorities. What distinguished this settlement and its inhabitants? And how might that distinction have persevered through subsequent lineages, hewn fresh from the harsh landscape? Let us shift scenes to a small settlement tenaciously growing on colonial civilization's fringe, between the eroding murals of arcane saints along Leon's dusty lanes. Certain chronicles come more sharply into focus. The undertones of riches reverberating from the Sierra Madre lodes were the initial enticement pulling migration streams through the secluded northeast frontier. Figures like Francisco de Ibarra pursued rumors and mineral hints across resistant native territories as far as distant Nuevo León in the 1560s, defying tribal arrows and merciless environment while scattering mining outposts and militia waystations. In secluded company storehouses, raw cultural intersections took shape. New societies emerged, molded by shared hardship and security. Desperation, rapacity, and ambition dissolved provincial identities within spontaneous mountain sanctuaries filled by native workers, Mexican managers, and foreign prospectors alike. By these fleeting interdependence zones, New Spain imparted subtle cultural imprints even where imperial rule remained aloof. When prosperous strikes like the fabled Bolanos lode west of Zacatecas spread silver fever outwards, ripples of opportunists emanated north, developing New Leon's arid frontier. Administrative estates, livestock enclosures, agricultural trusteeships, and Franciscan missions took tender roots across the landscape. Still, consolidated dominion over the vast Coahuila and Nuevo León's expanses proved gradual, with sanctioned civilian settlers exposed to native assaults against irregular militia defense. Not until the early 1700s did Bourbon's strategic priorities renew support through land endowments and martial bolstering to proliferate ranches, farms, and civil defense forces across Nuevo León. The Crown sought to anchor regional self-rule and taxation potential for these valuable yet imperiled buffer provinces facing French Louisiana. In remote places like León, the crevices between empires saw cultural undercurrents coalescing colonial order through unique local forms. In León's early eras, pivotal figures emerged as pioneers shaping the frontier's trajectory. Their bequest, logged in registries and archives, unveils the initial order established amid chaos. If later eras knew arcane chronicles of luminous ancestors whose foresight secured land deeds in New León's tumultuous settlement, might not faded civic records confirm outsized investments receiving equally sizable compensation? Could originating lineages trace back to servicemen posted at secluded watchtowers, or enterprising ranchers first cultivating savage tracts into grazing land? Among León's seminal names may lie our clan's genesis. Aggrieved by downstream misfortunes or clashes, contemporary relatives might still safeguard partial records awaiting piecing together if research recovered the right path. We linger in this colonial waypoint, still permeated by sacred geography from native cycles now woven with missionary monuments. In the idiosyncratic bell tower chimes reverberating Juan Bautista's frontier cathedral may resonate clues from founding times when churches shaped more than skylines, cementing communal gravity over isolated villages. From such hallowed cornerstones grew bonds and schisms subtly resonating through descendants' landholdings and pews alike. Which chroniclers from León might aid our enigma? The story evolved from territorial tussles to civic memory, and then into church and family canon. Up the Camino Real frontier, we track both tangible and cultural imprints. The Durames clan, proud Canary Islanders turned frontier ranchers, knew these dusty slopes by moonlight since boyhood days steering their father's cattle drives. Now, in 1813, tracking royalist patrols through the gloom, they signaled their guerrilla band toward a canyon bend where an ambush would leave few standing. Later, they feasted on captured fare around a grotto fire, reminiscing news of other kinsmen fighting alongside Padre Hidalgo farther south. Such locally lionized names surfaced themselves in crumbling papers and naming customs alike. threading a lineage of singular distinction, and likely selective recall, throughout the region's seminal agony. What arcana remain regarding our cryptic central bloodline, originating in Mexico's northern crucible? Their epoch was a time of turmoil, marked by bleeding earth and colliding forces. Where, then, lies the factual legacy of this era? Even as satisfaction and purpose swelled from hard-won liberty, stark actualities persisted for those now marooned on the distant frontier, beyond facile governance. Marauding Comanche and Apache rapidly exploited weakened militia struggling to control vast tracts contested between opportunist settlers, native bands, and Mexican territorial assertiveness. By 1826, Mesa de las Aguilas had been overtaken by two warring tribes fighting over commerce access and enslaved captives. The besieged militia battalion retreated beyond the Nueces after forfeiting a third of townspeople to ghastly demises or forced marches toward ransom scarcely affordable. Food stores dwindled as outlying ranch hands shunned lethal work hazards. Desperate chieftains appealed futilely for battalion reinforcements from a depleted federal defense budget. Both opportunistic pioneers like Austin and regional strongmen asserted overlapping dominion to nominally govern these blood-stained scrub plains, lacking lawful or authoritative sanctuary. Consequent radical solutions emerged on frontier peripheries bereft of shelter or security. Might not successor lineages stem from those learning to ride and shoot straight before they walked or wrote, inheriting reflex instincts and unyielding mentalities, necessitating visionary guidance to reforge into alternative purpose? For the land itself seemed to cry out. To the transient bands threading the remote deserts and canyon lands, well before boundaries were delineated, the gradual influx foretold inevitable clashes over already scarce resources. But some had endured previous cycles of civilization's ascent and collapse, first resplendent cities swallowed by jungle after Cortés, now Spanish missions failing against native assaults. So they adapted fluid tactics, vanishing into hazardous terrain between lightning raids on susceptible hamlets and convoys transporting imported wares. Captives became currency feeding reciprocal raiding cycles. Confronted by overwhelming demographic pressure and ranchers' land seizures, Comanche chief Cuerno Verde forged a formidable alliance in the 1760s, overwhelming gold caravans and slave trains alike traversing the Conchos Valley toward Chihuahuan lumber mills. The diverse bands dwelling within Coahuila's Stark Basin lands had refined transient subsistence patterns distinct to the terrain for eras before Spanish interference, chasing seasonal wildlife migrations between elevated Sierra shelter in summer down to riparian winter camps. Their perspective valued mobility, communal allocation of resources, and adaptive leadership able to counter droughts and episodic plenty. Facets of these customs enabled indigenous ways of life to endure, despite expanding missionary and ranching colonies over 2 centuries. But imported disease contagions proved ruinous, while Spanish armed reprisals for raids increasingly constrained former nomadic ranges. By early 1800s, territorial constraints had ruptured and fragmented most tribes through captive takings, while occasionally fostering provisional interband cooperation against shared dangers. So the Comanche assaults which ranchers endeavored to moderate blended revenge, desperation and pragmatic rivalry for resources, manifestations of cumulative seclusion and displacement. Even stalwart sanctuaries like Cerralvo and Boca de Leones recorded dozens perishing annually by the 1830s. So when Juan Nepomuceno Seguin ventured out under dusty jacaranda blooms, seeking to negotiate tense pacts, was it foreknowledge of resistance's eventual futility, or a perspective to enlist former mortal foes like the Comanche toward Texas liberty in mere decades hence? For the irresistible tide would crest regardless. What world awaited beyond its chaotic wake? As the trails of our ancestors wind northward, converging towards the sprawling expanses of Coahuila, the tapestry of our story grows richer. The narratives unearthed along this journey, tracing back to the Sierra Madre's mineral-rich heartlands and through the storied paths of Nuevo Leon, have not just chronicled a lineage, but echoed the broader symphony of Mexico's Mestizo heritage. These paths, laden with the whispers of the past, carry the indelible marks of resilience, hope, and an unyielding spirit that has traversed generations. In the lingering echoes of ancient church bells, our journey finds a momentary pause, a breath taken, before delving deeper into the heart of our mystery. These stories, relics of an era bygone, are not mere footnotes in history. They are vibrant threads woven into the fabric of a nation's soul, alive with the tales of triumphs and tribulations that have shaped the land and its people. The path leading to Coahuila is more than a geographic trek. It is a passage through time, a bridge connecting the storied past to an unfolding future. Here, at the edge of a new chapter, the narrative waits, pregnant with the promise of revelations yet to come. The lineage we trace, mirrored in the dust of trails long trodden, holds secrets that are yet to be unraveled, stories yet to be told. In the shadows of Coahuila's approaching horizons, where history whispers secrets to those who dare to listen, our quest continues. The land, a silent witness to the epics that have danced upon it, beckons with the allure of untold tales. What lies in wait is a mosaic of human endeavor and legacy, a testament to the enduring spirit that has weathered the tumult of ages. Thus, our chronicle marches onward, through landscapes rich with the echoes of those who came before, their legacy a guiding star leading us further into the heart of a history as profound as the people who have lived it.
Thank you so much for listening to this Family Tree Saga. We know your time is precious. Look for more at familytreesagas.com.